You are welcome to yet another episode of LFN What's Your Say? The leading listening show where we discuss important issues with important people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. When we talk about justice, we often think of the principle that no one is above the law. But an equally important pillar of justice is this: no one should be below the law either. And that includes a fair interpretation of statutes, the proper application of criminal charges, and the requirement that evidence align with the law's intent, not just its words. In the case of R. Kelly, one of the most glaring legal missteps is found in how the courts applied the RICO statute against him. A law that was never intended to target individuals running legal businesses, nor to criminalize associations that lack a core of illegal activity. Let's explore this deeply, because at the heart of R. Kelly's New York appeal lies a foundational legal misunderstanding, or perhaps a misapplication that raises serious constitutional and procedural red flags. Let's begin by examining the term enterprise as used in the context of RICO, which is a short form for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It's critical to understand that the RICO statute, enacted in 1970, was designed to combat organized crime. It was tailored to target entities like the mafia groups that exist not to conduct lawful business, but purposely to engage in racketeering and organized criminal activity. Meanwhile, the word enterprise under RICO is not vague or ambiguous. On the contrary, every credible legal source, every case law citation, and every textbook that has sought to explain the application of RICO has always included one clarifying condition: that the enterprise in question must be inherently criminal or used for criminal common purposes. There is no source that treats the term enterprise in isolation from its illegal or criminal connotation in this context. And that's where the entire foundation of the case against R. Kelly begins to crumble. Because instead of identifying a criminal enterprise that had its roots, purpose, or functioning based in illegal activity, the prosecution and the court focused on a legally registered business enterprise, R. Kelly's music promotion and touring operation, and painted it as an illegal enterprise simply because it existed in a structured format. Think about that for a moment. We're not talking about a shell company created to launder money. We're not talking about a front business used to traffic drugs or illegal weapons. We are talking about a legitimate entertainment business. A lawful enterprise that had a public-facing presence, employed numerous individuals, paid taxes, signed contracts, and fulfilled commercial services. A business that had nothing to hide and nothing to suggest that its operations were in and of themselves criminal. And yet that legal business, simply because R. Kelly was at the center of it, was labeled a criminal enterprise under the RICO statute. Not because it was created for criminal purposes. Not because its structure existed to facilitate crime. But because some allegations were made that R. Kelly the individual had committed offenses. That's a legal sleight of hand that doesn't hold up under scrutiny. As attorney Jennifer Bonjean has consistently argued throughout the appeal process, there is a glaring disconnect here. The law does not allow for the criminalization of an entire enterprise unless that enterprise is engaged in or formed for the purpose of sustained criminal activity. That is the threshold for invoking RICO. That is the line in the sand. In R. Kelly's case, the prosecution made the leap from R. Kelly allegedly committed criminal acts to his business as a criminal enterprise. But the law does not support that leap. Not unless there's overwhelming evidence that the purpose of his business was to commit crimes, or that its operation was dependent on illegal activity. Courts have repeatedly held that RICO requires not just a collection of bad acts, but a structured group whose primary purpose involves racketeering. This isn't a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of statutory intent. The Supreme Court, in cases such as United States v. Turkett, made it crystal clear that an enterprise under RICO can be a legal or illegal entity, but for a RICO violation to stand, the enterprise must be shown to have a common purpose of engaging in a pattern of racketeering activity. That's the key phrase: common purpose of engaging in a pattern of racketeering activity. That means the prosecution must show that the enterprise, whether it's a record label, a street gang, or a corporation, exists not just alongside alleged crimes, but that it exists for those crimes. That the criminal activity is not incidental, not separate, but woven into the fabric of the enterprise itself. Bonjean's argument is not merely technical. It's foundational. She is saying if we allow courts to label any legal entity as a criminal enterprise simply because a member of that entity is accused of wrongdoing, then we obliterate the very purpose of the RICO statute. We turn it into a catch-all hammer that can be used against anyone who operates within an organized structure, regardless of the legality of that structure's purpose. This is not just a problem for R. Kelly. It rather sets a dangerous precedent. If upheld, it would mean that any artist, executive or entrepreneur who builds a team, registers a company or employs a group of people could be vulnerable to RICO charges simply because of accusations made against them as individuals. Their business becomes a criminal enterprise not because of what it does, but because of who they are. In R. Kelly's case, the legal and commercial structure around him, a team of managers, assistants, drivers and publicists was typical of a successful music career. These were not shadowy figures operating in the dark. They were professionals, many of whom have worked in the industry for decades helping to coordinate tours, appearances, albums and marketing campaigns. Yet under the prosecution's theory, this team became the RICO enterprise. And the prosecution's logic went like this: because some of these individuals assisted R. Kelly in ways that later became relevant to the allegations against him, such as arranging travel or coordinating schedules, this somehow made the entire organization complicit in a racketeering scheme. But again, the law is clear: participation in a legal enterprise is not criminal unless that enterprise itself is criminal. Assisting someone in their profession, even if that person later becomes the subject of legal accusations, does not transform that help into racketeering. There must be intent. There must be structure. And above all, there must be proof that the organization's central purpose was to break the law. That proof simply does not exist in this case. The lower courts, however, appear to have glossed over these distinctions. Instead of anchoring their analysis in the foundational principles of RICO, they adopted a surface-level understanding of enterprise that focused more on structure than substance. And by doing so, they punished R. Kelly not for leading a criminal enterprise, but for having an enterprise in the first place. That is not how justice works, and certainly that is not how RICO was intended to function. Bonjean's argument before the appeals court isn't just persuasive. It's essential. If courts are allowed to uphold convictions based on such a diluted interpretation of the law, then we are no longer protecting society from organized crime. We are weaponizing criminal law against individuals who run legal operations simply because their visibility makes them easy targets. Let's remember, RICO is a powerful statute. It was designed to bring down mafia bosses who insulated themselves from liability by building criminal structures. It was not designed to stretch its reach to every business owner, celebrity, or artist who employs a team. If RICO can be twisted to cover legal enterprises, then it ceases to be a safeguard against organized crime and becomes a tool for selective prosecution. That is what Bonjean is fighting against. And that is why this appeal matters not just for R. Kelly, but for anyone who values fairness, due process and the limits of government power. Let's not forget the most basic requirement of American criminal law: the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. If they cannot prove that the enterprise was criminal in nature, if they cannot show that its purpose, function and operation were embedded in illegality, then they have no grounds to apply RICO. And if the courts cannot recognize that distinction, then the justice system itself is in danger of losing its credibility. If you wish to take part in a live interview discussing any of these topics, let us know by sending an email to sashalfnmedia@gmail.com for scheduling. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.